Okay, so my name is Jean-Maxime Moris and I'm the creative director on Remember Me. I'm also one of the co-founders at Dontnod Entertainment, and I am delighted to be here today in Germany answering the community's questions about Remember Me. So Remember Me is a third-person action-adventure game that is coming out on the 7th of June in Europe on the PS3, 360 and PC. It's a game that offers a balanced mix of combat, exploration, platforming, puzzle, and our own very specific memory gameplay. It's telling the story of Nilin, an elite memory hunter who has the power to break into your memories and steal your memories, and also to remix your memories, changing them to change you and to change the world. At the beginning of the game, she's had her own memory, wiped clean, erased, and Remember Me tells you her story of her getting it back. So why did we choose Neo Paris? Well, that's a very good question. So Remember Me in the beginning was about much more than just memories. There were a lot of other technical and environmental trends of today that we were extrapolating into the future, and one of them was global warming. So at the beginning, global warming played a much bigger role in the universe of Remember Me. And so we thought of having the game in places like Tokyo, San Francisco, Los Angeles, places that have actually been done before a lot in video games. And as the concept matured and we were kind of moving away from global warming and focusing on memories, at the same time we had this kind of epiphany. Well, just look around, you guys, you know, this is Paris, you live there, it's one of the most recognizable, famous cities in the world, it's almost like a brand. And you know, all we had to do was get out of the office and we could capture thousands of pictures for references. And it had almost never been done before, and that's the story of why we picked Paris. But why Neo Paris? Well, Neo means that there has been something happening in between, and this is something that we're going to talk to you from now, between now and the moment the game launches. So I won't say much about that today, but a lot has happened and Paris has had to be rebuilt. And the way our art team did that was that they took the traditional architecture of Neo Paris, so you'll get landmarks as the Eiffel Tower, Notre Dame, the Porte Saint-Denis, the Bastille, Column, the Sacré-Cœur, and on top of that we built bigger than life sci-fi structures. So picking that city was great because we had such a traditional architecture that we could then extrapolate into the future. So that's the story of why Paris, and why Neo Paris, and how cool it is to be in Neo Paris. So the response to our main character, Nilin, being a female character has been actually very good, and I'm glad that in 2013 things have changed and things are changing. You know, people can more and more relate in the games industry to female characters, and that's very important to me because movies and books have been portraying female characters for hundreds, if not thousands of years for books, and I think it's time our media grew up. And it was great that Capcom, our publisher, believed in that, believed in the fact that today in 2013, sorry for the accent, we can have strong female characters. And designing a female character is actually exactly the same as designing a male character in an action adventure game. She needs to have a combination of resonating character traits that then permeate into the entire content of the game, and it's a real challenge, but having a female character or a male character is exactly the same in that respect. Now, would it have been easier if we had had a male character? Probably, with publishers initially. It is still easier to sell a male character to publishers today, but again, times are changing. Today more and more games are done with female characters. I think that's a great thing because there's still a long way to go, and again, you know, thank you Capcom for believing in this. So obviously the design of the main character, the design of Nilin, was very important to us, and it's very important to the success of the game. And it's something that went through numerous iterations, like hundreds of them, but I would say there were 3 main ones. So the first one was almost 4 or 5 years ago, when we were a very small team of 5 developers, and it was very, very different. The face was totally different, so we didn't have even the design of the face was different, and she had clothes that were more looking like they just came out of Blade Runner. She was wearing khaki trousers, and she had a jacket that went from here to basically her knees, and that was all transparent, to protect her from the rain. And again, that was at the time where global warming was much more important in the game, but as the concept evolved and we moved from global warming to memories, then our design for the main character also evolved to match that trend. So the second iteration was already Nilin being much more of a character that could take on missions. She looked a little bit more like a spy, and she had, at some point she even had a tie, and she was carrying a suitcase. That was just one of the iterations, but the second iteration was actually very close to this, but the fabric on the clothes was very much futuristic, and so was the jacket that was still very long, and we were happy with it, but it didn't survive. It stayed for like 1 or 2 years, but it was looking a little bit too much like it was directly coming from Mass Effect. And Mass Effect is a far sci-fi, space opera sci-fi game, but we are a near future game. People need today in 2013 to relate, to identify in the future that we create things that they see in their everyday life today, to make it believable, so that they believe that we could get there actually quite soon. And so we evolved, and so the fabric changed. She is now wearing jeans. So it's actually everyone in this room today, right now, is wearing jeans, and it's a fabric that was I think invented in the 19th or even 18th century, and it's still worn by many people. Actually, most of the people watching this video, I think, would be wearing jeans. So we chose that fabric for her trousers so that people could really identify to it. And then also the leather of the jacket we made a little bit more contemporary, and the fabric of her top is also made of lycra materials that you could find today, if you were going to exercise at the gym, for instance. And on top of those clothes that you could find today, in today's world, we extrapolated and created the more sci-fi boots, the sci-fi neck, the little sci-fi touches that propel you into the future. So what we did for the city, by having this traditional architecture and those sci-fi structures coming on top of that, that was actually also true for the design of Nilin, for the design of all our characters, and basically for every single element in the game. So the most joyful, the best part of creating the game is now, and it's always now. It's always been now, and it will always be now. When we were just talking about ideas and concept on paper, it was the best time of the game because so much can be created and you have absolutely no limits in your mind. And then we started creating the game and building the team. That was great that was the best moment because we were, recruiting highly talented individuals, and we were really getting to grips with what we wanted to create. And now, the game is coming to market, and I'm traveling the world, presenting the game to the people, and I'm extremely happy that we can now show what we've been working so hard at to the entire world. And so the best time obviously is now. So the music in the game, the music to me is 50% of the experience. 50% is what you see in the game and 50% is what you hear. And music has this power for us to really enhance and multiply our emotions. So this was very important to me, and I've had the chance to work with an extremely talented music composer, Remember Me, who is Olivier de Rivière. And our intention was to basically blend a world of organic memories, which is today, with the world of future memories in 2084. And that in order to do that, what we did was we blended orchestra music recorded at the Philharmonica Orchestra and electronica music, and they morph into one another, and sometimes it becomes almost impossible to tell which is which. And on top of that, we've been lucky to have John Krelander as our sound engineer, and he's an Academy Award winner for his work on Lord of the Rings. So it's been an incredible experience. And one of the things that really Olivier brought to the table, and on top of just the wonderful storytelling and narrative stuff that the music tells, was the whole dynamic music element. And this is something that we have a lot of in all the combat sections of the game. So basically the music will adapt to the way you play, and it will reward you for performing combos, chaining special moves, and it will go down when you miss a combo, when you get hit, when you get in low life state. So and depending on the types of enemies and enemy configurations that are on the screen, those different states of the music also will have a different color, a different texture. So the music in Remember Me's combat will never get boring, and it will always reward you for being a good player. So no, there is no stealth in Remember Me. Remember Me is not a stealth game, because if you want to do a stealth game right, then you have to focus your entire concept around that. But Nilin in Remember Me is a memory hunter, and we've staged our levels so that it always felt like you were being hunted down, or that you were hunting someone. But that has a lot to do with, again, the way we stage and the way we tell the story of Nilin. What we do have, though, is chases with some drones and helicopters. And in those cases, it's basically a game of hide and seek, and I call that patrol puzzle, because it's like a puzzle of identifying where the patrols of the drones are going. But it's a very light stealth element, and by no means would I call Remember Me a stealth game. But it's a very good game. So yeah, it is true that there are millions of games that are coming to the market this year. So you need a good reason to buy Remember Me. Well, it's very simple. How many of those games that are coming to the market are actually new IP? And how many of those games let you dive into the story of a brand new character in a brand new universe? Well, this is Remember Me. Remember Me tells the story of Nilin, an elite memory hunter in Neo Paris 2084. Brand new universe, brand new powers, because she has the power to break into people's minds, to steal their memories, and also to remix their memories, which is to change just a few details in their memories, and then see how the butterfly effect is going to impact the personality of her targets, and in turn the game world. And also we have a very cool, accessible, and very deep combat system that is very innovative. So there are plenty more reasons even that I could go into to buy Remember Me, but I think you have enough for now. So will Remember Me feature a good or bad moral decisions system and story branching? The answer is no. But that's not a bad answer, because there is room for all types of games that tell all different kinds of stories and offer all different kinds of experiences. And Remember Me is really the story of Nilin, and we made this creative choice to have a linear experience, whether level design or narrative, so that we had as much control as possible over the events that you go through and the emotions that you go through. So great story to experience from Nilin's point of view, great gameplay that we build on top of that, great universe, great soundtrack. You know, we don't need a good or bad decision making system. So developing a new IP, like Remember Me, was an incredible amount of work. It's a giant mountain that we are, the top of which we have just reached with the team, and it's been 5 years of climbing step after step the mountain. So creating the IP in itself is a giant amount of work, because we went into so much details into creating, you know, so that everything made sense, the way every single building, every single piece of clothing, every single vehicle, everything, every building makes sense in the game's universe. And that took a long time to create, from a narrative perspective, to sketch with our concept art, to build in the world, to test later for performance, to make interactive with the gameplay. Of course, that's production, that's creating a new IP, and that's what all studios go through when they create a new IP. But what we did go through as well, in parallel, was the creation of the studio, Dontnod Entertainment, and that took a lot of time. So the game's been in production for, well, in total production for 5 years now, and some people think, well, that's a long time to create one game. Well, it is a long time, but 5 years ago there was only 5 of us in one room with laptops. And now the company is growing to 100 people at the peak of production, and now we're back to around 70 people today, before the game launches. So recruiting all those people, building the team, and the spirit of our team, that took a lot of time, and I would say that the game, all in all, has been in real production for about 2.5 years. I think that's what it would have taken if we had had the team running from day one, knowing how to work with each other, having all the tools, etc. I think that's the time it would have taken. And of course, like all great adventures, there were times where, you know, it could have stopped. But the last major hurdle that I see, that I can remember of, that could really have made it not happen, was actually before it even existed, when in 2007 we were just going from publisher to publisher, pitching the idea, and we still had our regular jobs, you know, the 5 co-founders of Dontnod. And it was taking so much time to create all those documents and those pitch documents, you know, spending evenings and weekends. And after 1.5 years, I think, of it not happening, we were ready to let it go. And I know I was ready to let it go. And that's exactly the moment where, you know, light was shed upon us, and we found the money to create the game. So it's been just amazing ever since.